Hi guys, I'm following up now with a recording of the 2016 paper, which had a couple of text functions in it as well, just to help reinforce the slightly more complex text functions one can get when working on an exam paper. So question 3.8 in the 2016 paper has the following question based on the qualitate worksheet, which you can see I've selected in this workbook. Please in the exam do pay careful attention to the fact that a workbook might have numerous worksheets within it. So the one we're going to be looking at specifically is the qualitate or quality worksheet, and the question they ask is as follows. 3.8 says 1 star, and they show that it's actually put in as an asterisk or a symbol, is awarded for every 550 grams of the weight, which is in cells B4 down to B10 of the jewelry. So every 550 grams that you have of that jewelry, it will be awarded a star. So for example, in cell B7, the necklace in cell A7, is 2,456 grams. I sound like our ex-president there for a second. The numbers of stars allocated is then 4 stars, based on the fact that 250 grams would go into that 4 times. And that is displayed there in D7. Right, the maximum number of stars that a piece of jewelry can be given is 5 stars. That is displayed up in cell B1 over here. And they want us to work out in cell D10 how many stars the brooch, which is 1,300 grams, would then receive. So we're going to be putting in a formula in here to determine how many stars it would get. Now, this question can be answered one of 6 ways. That's right, there's 6 different ways you can put in various functions in order to ascertain how many stars this should get. I'm going to work through the text ones because obviously you can use a really long nested if statement where you say if B10 divided by 550 is greater than or equal to 5, then it's going to get 5 stars, and you put the 5 stars in brackets. And if it's not, then you do another if statement. If B10 is now divided by 550 is greater than or equal to 4, it will then get 4 stars. And again, if it's greater than or equal to 3, then it would get 3 stars. And if it's greater than or equal to 2, it would get 2 stars. And then finally, it would get 1 star. So you could do a really long nested if statement. But because we're working on text functions, I'm going to quickly have a look at how one would apply a text formula to this in order to ascertain how many stars this brooch would get. Now, we can all see if we take 250, and we can see it will go into that 5 times. So that should get 5 stars. But I need to get a function in there that would then ascertain that it would get 5 stars. Am I right? No, 550 grams. Sorry, no, it would only go in there. 550 is 1,100. It would go in there twice. So let's quickly have a look at how one does that. I'm going to use a left function. So I say equals left. And I'm going to use B1 as my reference, right? So I know that I'm going to take something from B1. But now I don't know how much I'm going to take. I'm going to have to work out how much I'm going to take by taking the value in cell B10 and dividing it by 550. But unfortunately, that's not going to work either, because that's obviously going to come up with a recurring number. And I wanted to round it off to the nearest whole number. So what I need to do is in there, I need to actually put in a trunc function, which is basically truncating. Remember, we learnt about round down, round up, round, and trunc was one of the functions, and it will obviously round it off to the nearest whole number for me. And there you can see it's now awarded at 2 stars, which is correct. 550 will go in there twice because it will come up to 1,100, and then 200, unfortunately, spare. So that is the one way of doing it. There's another way of doing it, and let's have a look at that way quickly as well. You can also use the same function except putting a round down in it. You can do a right function instead of a left and start stealing from the right hand side of this B1 cell based on the truncated value again. And then obviously there's the if statement as well. So there are legitimately 6 different ways you can do this. And there's obviously a mid function. You can also apply a mid to that. So you can say equals mid, open brackets, of B1, I want you to start at 1, And then once you've done that, I want you to take the truncated value of B10 divided by 550, and brackets need to go back to 1. Oh, back to black, sorry. And there you go. Mid function, B1, taking it from the first position, trunc, B10, 550. And that works exactly the same way that a left function or a right function or whatever, and even an if statement would work there. So there were numerous ways to do this question, but it was a question in the 2016 paper worth 5 marks. Okay, cool. So that was the question 3.8. Let's quickly have a look at the next question, which was question 4.3. I'm done with that. There we go. 4.2, sorry. 4.2 asks the following question with regards to the spreadsheet 4. Each piece of jewelry has a jewelry ID, which is obtained as follows. 3 letters of the precious metal in column C, starting from the second letter. Okay, so I'm taking 3 letters from the precious metal starting in column C, starting at the second letter. So I'm not taking from the left, I'm not taking from the right, I'm already thinking mid there, followed by the jewelry type in column B. Now there are 2 ways of doing this question as well. Fortunately not as bad as the previous one with 5 different ways of doing it, but let's have a look at how we'd go about doing this. So the precious metal stored in column C, the jewelry type is in column B, and I'm inserting this function into A to give it its unique ID code. So I'm going to do, they asked me to do the jewelry ID for the bracelet in cell A4. So that one over there, I'm putting my answer in here. Okay, so 2 different ways of doing this. I'm going to start by doing the function that is going to steal the letters I'm wanting. So they say they need to take the middle 3 letters, so it's mid of the precious metal type. I'm starting at number 2, the second letter in other words, and I'm taking 3 characters. So silver, it will take the ILV, the of that. And now I need to add that to, what was it again? Just see that quickly. I need to add that to the jewelry type, which is in column B. So like bracelet, for example. So I'm adding that. So this, in other words, would become ILV bracelet. Now, there are 2 different ways you can do this. The one that's already coming to mind now is a concatenate. And so I'm going to take that mid function I've just run, there, where I've stolen the ILV from silver, and I'm going to add that simply to the bracelet in B4 in order to get ILV bracelet. Now, there's another way of doing it rather than using a concatenate. You can also use the AND function. It works exactly the same, so check this out. I'm just going to get rid of these brackets quickly. Sorry, I'm making it difficult for you guys to see. Let me zoom into what I'm doing here. So I type in and type in B1. Oh no, it wasn't B1, sorry. Where are we now? B4. So using the AND function does exactly what the concatenate does. It's taking the ILV from the silver function and it's adding it to the B4, which is the metal type. So there's one of 2 ways to do that. The way I've just done with AND function, or I'm going to go back to the start and do what I did just now in case you didn't see it because it was a little bit small in the formula bar. Concatenate, and you put in your 2 text strings that you're doing. So this bit of the formula here is that ILV that it's stealing from that column, and there it's adding the type of jewelry in B4, and it will also give you exactly the same answer. Cool. So that's my story with regards to the 2016 question 3 and question 4 that had to do with text formulas. I hope that helps you in understanding a slightly more complex text formula.